Hello and welcome to Upfront, the show where we bring you leaders from our community to answer questions that matter to South Vancouver Islanders. I am privileged to be sitting here today with Your Worship Mayor Barb Desjardins from the Township of Esquimalt. Barb, how are you doing today?
I'm doing very well, Claire.
Excellent. I thought I'd give a little background on what you've been up to for those who aren't familiar with your experience. In addition to being Mayor of Esquimalt, Barb is also a physiotherapist, a mother, and an ardent proponent of active and healthy living. She was first elected to Esquimalt Council in 2005 and has also been a strong advocate for small and large community issues ever since. Barb has also been serving now as the mayor of the Township of Esquimalt since 2008. And as part of her mayoral contribution, she is sitting currently on 13 Capital Regional District boards, which is quite amazing, and as well as 6 additional board appointments outside of the CRD. We're very excited to have you here with us, Mayor Desjardins, and so I thought we'd get right into the questions that matter to our viewers.
Thanks very much.
Since we've been speaking about your board appointments, I thought I'd like to ask you about the recent departure of Victoria Police Chief Frank Elsner. As past league co-chair of Victoria and Esquimalt Police Board, you yourself and Mayor Lisa Helps, were very involved in this rather lengthy process. Of course, hindsight being 2020, I thought I'd ask you, what, if anything, would you do differently the next time around in a similar situation?
Well, thank you for that question. And processes are not complete yet, so to comment on any of that at this time might not be helpful or appropriate. What I can say to you is that when all is said and done, what I want to do is a complete forensic look at what happened, what steps were taken, what policies do we have in place, what processes occurred, so that we can look at how do we make sure that this kind of a situation never occurs again? Mm-hmm. And there are people involved, and whenever people are involved, you need to make sure you've taken those steps to prevent processes from faltering in the future. So I look forward to doing that forensic. Mm-hmm. Now is not yet the time.
Right. Well, since we are on the topic of processes, I thought that I would bring up the long-awaited and often hotly contested sewage treatment facility debate. It's now closed. The CRD has a 2020 deadline to provide secondary sewage treatment at McLaughlin Point. So at this point, I'm actually going to open it up for questions that have come in directly from our viewers. And I'm going to read off some of those questions for you. So Janet had this to say. She said, "I'm so impressed with Mayor Desjardins fighting to the bitter end for Esquimalt. We did not want the sewage treatment plant at our beautiful McLaughlin Point. Esquimalt was loud and clear that in a referendum, only to they feel as though they've had their voices and vote ignored." So she's wondering what really happened, and was our mayor stifled?
Things changed in that process. Mm-hmm. And in 2014, absolutely, we heard loud and clear from the community that McLaughlin was not the site. We did absolutely everything we could in our power and working down at CRD to provide options that were different, that might have been more cost effective. At the end of the day, this project that we have ended up with is because we ran out of time. We ran out of time and were clearly facing funding going to be removed if we did not make some decisions. Mm-hmm. It's the reason the province came in to help, mm-hmm. because we had run out of time. Did we get a better project? Absolutely. And the reason we got a better project is because Esquimalt was so strong in its voice. We got tertiary treatment, mm-hmm. and that is significant. It certainly makes what we're doing a better project. Did Esquimalt get a better deal? Absolutely. We received $20 million in mitigation. The first time that came forward, we were getting nothing, mm-hmm. in terms of compensation and mitigation. So the three things coming together, the fact that we ran out of time, that the funding was going to be removed, that we had a full review process and it came back to the same place, but that we ended up with community benefit. All of those things were brought forward to the community again. And what we heard is, okay, let's make it happen, but let's make sure it's the very best project possible. And we have worked hard as a community to hold the feet to the fire for the CRD and the project board to make sure they follow through on all of the promises that are in place with this project.
That's great. I'm sure your residents appreciate you being such a strong voice on this subject.
Yeah, would we have liked something to be different? Absolutely. I still believe there is a better opportunity out there for us, but you know,
To be realistic,
at some point, if you've run out of time and you're risking dollars and the dollars are required,
yeah,
then you got to go forward.
yeah. Well, I think that was a wise decision. Another resident had a question about community planning. Rachel said the last time a community plan was unveiled, lots of money was spent to determine what the needs were, and the public's comments and concern didn't appear to be considered. Please tell us how you're taking the public's input into consideration. You know, this with the context that, you know, it's not entirely clear which what she's referencing in terms of like which aspect of community planning.
Yeah, and that makes it difficult because I don't know which process it is, but I can say this to Rachel. In Esquimalt, I would say that we probably give more opportunities for public input than any other municipality. Many other community leaders have actually commented and complimented us on the ability for us to go to the public each time. We've learned that in the past, that that's the most important thing. And every time we receive public input, that is considered. Council receives all of the public input in its entirety. And as it's brought into the process, it's weighed. So you may not see your exact wording in things, but your input is always added to the consideration of any process. So whether it's a small open house around the design guidelines for Esquimalt Road, or whether it's about the official community plan, the important thing to Esquimalt Council is that we go to the public, is that we hear your comments. At the end of the day, you might not get all the things you wish for, but you've had the opportunity to have a say, and that is the most important thing for us to hear what you have had to say.
Yeah, that's the nature of participation.
Absolutely.
You don't necessarily always get the way you want. So we'll be right back after a brief break with Mayor Desjardins of Esquimalt. Mayor Desjardins, I wanted to ask you, you recently ventured out to pursue elected office at a higher level. Now, I'd like to know about your experience during your run in the provincial election and what your priorities will be now that you're back in the mayor's seat.
Thank you for the question. The reason I endeavored to run provincially is because I saw a bit of a disconnect between municipal and regional and the province. And so I'm the type of person that if you can't solve the problem from one place, you know, you try and figure out how you might be able to solve some problems. So it was a wonderful learning experience for me. And I gained a lot of insight, more for my role at CRD as chair, perhaps than locally. But in my community, I had the opportunity to go door knocking, sort of mid-session as being a municipal official, and get the pulse. And door knocking is an amazing way of hearing what people are thinking, because they do let you know at the doorstep. And clearly there are some priorities that we need to continue to push at. Many of them are of a regional nature, specifically transportation, every doorstep. It was interesting, there were a lot of talk about affordability. The reality is for our riding, people felt that it was affordable, that's why they moved there, but the problem was they can't get there and back. So transportation ended up rising to the top again. So there were all sorts of ideas and information that came forward, and I'm going to integrate that into the work that I'm doing both locally in Esquimalt and at CRD. I'm certainly going to continue to advocate for use of the ENN corridor. That's important to my community, but it's important for the region. And there are other issues. I've got some ideas around affordability of housing. So you'll see some of those ideas roll out at CRD as I go along.
Right. Any front runners you can let us in on, or are you still too much in the planning stage?
You know, right now I'm advocating strongly to keep the ENN going, because that's the thing I know that's already in the hopper. And for my understanding, it should be the low-hanging fruit. Right. It is an absolute must that this region has another option for transportation.
Yeah, I agree with you there.
West Shore to downtown, absolutely.
Yeah, well, I hope it gets going again. On the topic of traffic and congestion, I thought I would ask you another question that we had come in directly from one of our viewers. Heather says, I love Mayor Desjardins and Council for everything that they do for our wonderful community. It's one of the best municipalities to live in. Actually, she said it's the best municipality to live in. However, the Esquimalt Road and Head Street intersection is a problem. She says that it's impossible to cross the street in time and the lights aren't synced, and she's actually been, almost hit and yelled at while she's crossing the intersection. So she wants to know, what will you do about this public safety risk?
Well, this is actually an intersection that's going to have a lot of focus on it. And so I want to thank her for the comment, because I will take this right back to staff at this point. And the reason I want to do that, and the reason it's going to have a lot of focus, is this is part of the truck route, the traffic route for the wastewater treatment plant. So it's going to have an even increased amount of traffic happening, and we need to make sure that that corner is safe. So rest assured, this is your comment, and I'll take that directly from you, and we'll send it in to our staff and make sure that they both work with the wastewater treatment plant people, but also we have an advisory committee for that group, and maybe that it can go there as well. And the great thing that we have here in Esquimalt is that we also have a public safety committee. And that's made up of our municipal engineer, our planning staff, our police, our fire. So we get this broad spectrum. So these ideas come in and they look at it from all of their perspectives and come up with solutions to concerns.
Great. Well, I'm sure that will provide her comfort that it's being addressed and looked at.
Thank you.
We'll be right back with Mayor Barb Desjardins of Esquimalt after this brief break. Hello and welcome back to Up Front. We're here today with Mayor Barb Desjardins of the Township of Esquimalt. Barb, we have had a lot of action and interest from our viewers, and a lot of commentary coming in for this show.
That's fantastic. And we answered one question or a couple of questions from various people through social media. Anyone on social media that wants direct contact with me, I'm happy to have a conversation with them. They can email me, they can Facebook me, they can send it just through the municipality. I do have Mayor's Open Doors as well, so please, I'd like to be able to respond to anybody directly as well with their questions.
That's great to hear as well, because there were even a number of questions that came in over and above these that we're handling today that we weren't able to get to, so that's great. I wanted to ask you about the Esquimalt Adventure Water Park, because it's now open, which is wonderful. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's getting excellent online reviews already, and I think it's safe to say it's a family favorite. So I wanted to know why did you choose to invest in this facility versus other facilities, and how did you make that choice?
This has been something that's been on the books for years, and there has always been a focus by Esquimalt to ensure youth and family activities. And the Lions Club actually got behind this and said, we really want to push for this. We hear it out in the community. And as well, Council has been hearing about it for years. What are we going to provide for communities? And as I said, It's been a long time coming. The Alliance funded and raised $50,000 for this. It's already been attended by thousands and thousands of people. So it is a definite asset to our community. And it is one of the things that we thought, okay, here's another way we can draw people to our community so that they know what a wonderful community Esquimalt is. And clearly it is drawing people. I've met people from Central Saanich all the way out to Langford as well, coming to our water park.
Yeah, it's a very big facility as well, so that's exciting.
And it covers all age groups as well, which is amazing. You know, I mean, you have equipment in the corner that seniors can do a workout.
That's right.
All the way down to tots and toddlers.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Can you tell us just for our viewers where it's located, for anyone that might not know?
It's located right next to our recreation center, which is on Fraser Street, just off Esquimalt Road.
Since we're talking about the choice to invest in certain facilities versus other facilities, we did have a question come in from one of the residents. Todd was concerned that, you know, there is money being invested into this water park, which is wonderful, and as a mother, I certainly appreciate it. But, you know, of course, drought will be a future concern. You know, healthy trees are having to be taken down for this kind of development, with and developers are being given prime real estate in some cases. So he's wondering what is being done and what will be done to protect parks and environment.
Well, I think there's a couple of separate questions there. With respect to the water park, there were no trees, maybe one tree taken down.
That's good to clarify.
It was a couple of pieces of property that had been housing. One ended up being the teen center for a while. With the funding that we received, we moved the teen center into the basement of the rec center, and that was to continue to integrate all of our services and be able to provide opportunities from seniors to juniors, all in the same area. So any time, though, a developer comes forward and there are issues around having to remove trees, we have a very clear tree bylaw that states what you can and cannot remove, what you have to do in terms of protection of trees, in terms of planting for the future. We extract that if you take a tree down, you're going to replace it with up to 3 trees. And so that may or may not be on the property that you're developing, but it will be contributed to our overall tree management strategy for Esquimalt. So we're very conscious of the environment with respect to, if we take something out, we've got to add something back in to keep that balance.
So you recently released the 2016 Climate Action Revenue Incentive Program. The report was released recently. So since we're talking about, you know, green initiatives, I thought I would ask sort of a follow-up question to that, which is, you know, how did you do on last year's planning and your goals, and what do you have planned for this year in terms of initiatives?
Well, we've released it because that was the timeline that the government had. It hasn't come to council yet, so there will be some discussion on what are the findings of this report and what is it that council direction gives toward the next year. But what I can say is that we have decreased our overall corporate emissions by 22% since we started looking at these things. We're very conscious of it, and we've set up 3 programs for the next year that will help us to continue to reduce. One is that the oil to heat pumps program that the province has set up. We're piggybacking on that, and we're offering incentives to residents to move from oil heating to heat pump. We have 20 opportunities at $150. The second thing that we're going to do is we're also providing education, climate leadership education, for elementary schools. And we have provided funding for 5 classes, and that will be taught by the BC Sustainable Energy Association.
Great.
And so those are 2 of the things. And then the third thing that we're doing corporately is we are systematically going through our lighting, street lighting, etc., and going to move that to LED lighting. So we'll continue to see our greenhouse gas emissions reduced.
Fantastic. That's a lot in the hopper. So recently in the news, after 30 years, the West Bay Marina RV Park, which is of course run by the Esquimalt and Songhees First Nations, has closed. And you've said that you think this is a fantastic opportunity to revitalize tourism in the area because they are replacing it with a new Salish seaside RV haven. So I just thought you might want to talk a little bit about that and why you think it'll help to revitalize tourism in the area.
Well, certainly as the mayor of Esquimalt, this is a wonderful project that's coming forward. The RV park has been around for a lot of time. Mm-hmm. The difference is that ownership it was changed to Esquimalt and Songhees Nation in 2005, I believe. They are now just exercising that they're going to take over. They had leased it in the past, so now it's their land and they're doing something with it. The plan is that they are redoing it. They hired a RV park specialist to redesign it to allow for the market of larger RVs, and they've reduced the number of stalls, but what they're also doing is they're bringing in a cultural experience. And for us, this is phenomenal because people are going to flock to this RV park. They always did. Now there will be a center that will include a gift shop with First Nations art, and there will be cultural symbols, artwork around the area. It will be run by the First Nations, and anyone who has gone there either to walk around the RV park or who has stayed there knows that there is no better view in this region than somebody who has their RV looking at downtown Victoria and the cruise ship terminal all at the same time. They are phenomenal. It is a phenomenal site. So how does that help the community? They all have to shop for groceries. Right. And of course, we're going to benefit by the opportunity of opening up maybe some gift shops, those sorts of things. So this is a huge boon to our community, and of course we're very pleased that the nations have really moved forward on this. Yeah, a lot of exciting things underway. We have to take a brief break, but we'll be right back with Mayor Barb Desjardins of Esquimalt. Welcome back to Upfront. Mayor Desjardins, I have one final question for you, and it is a two-part question. So firstly, what do you think is has been your biggest challenge or lessons learned moment in the mayor's seat? And secondly, what's your biggest accomplishment that we haven't covered on the program yet today? Well, I would say the biggest challenge is that things take a lot longer than you expect. And keeping everybody up to speed on things as they move through their process, that has been a challenge. But the most significant accomplishment for our community is that we have really raised the profile, both locally, regionally, and even across BC. There is a very different vibe about Esquimalt, a very different questions being asked, interest in our community. And that, to me, is a very wonderful and significant accomplishment. That's fantastic, and I think the residents would agree with you. There's been a lot of wonderful initiatives that have been accomplished. Thank you. Well, thank you so much for tuning in to Upfront, and we look forward to seeing you next time.